Unit 1, Diversity in the Living World. So, biology is the science of life forms and living processes. Biology is the science of life forms and living processes. The living world comprises an amazing diversity of living organisms. Early man could easily perceive the difference between inanimate matter and living organisms. That means early man, our ancestors were able to identify the difference between inanimate, that means living and non living organisms, very easily just by looking at them. Early man defied some of the inanimate matter and some among the animals and plants. Defied means they worship them, thinking that they are God. A common feature of all such forms of inanimate and animate objects was a sense of awe and fear that they evoked. What were the common features of all forms of inanimate and animate objects? It was a sense of awe or fear. The description of living organisms, including human beings, began much later in human history. The description of living organisms began much later. Societies which indulged in anthropocentric view of biology could register limited progress in biological knowledge. That means those people who were indulged in anthropocentric view of biology means the perspective that humans are the most important or central entities in the study of biology. We consider humans as the primary thing. We give full priority to human beings. That is the anthropocentric view. They could only register limited progress in biological knowledge because if you look around, it's not only humans who have the primary importance, it's also the plants and animals. Systematic and monumental description of life forms brought in, out of necessity, detailed systems of identification, nomenclature, and classification. The biggest spin off of such studies was the recognition of sharing of similarities among living organisms both horizontally and vertically. All present day living organisms are related to each other and also to all organisms that ever lived on this earth. This was a revelation that humbled the humans and led to the cultural movements for conservation of biodiversity. So, first we were thinking that humans have the primary importance, but after that, there was a revelation. Revelation means we got to know that all the present day organisms are related to each other. So, that truth humbled man. Humbled means it made humans feel that they are not as good or as important as they thought they were. So in the chapters of this unit we will get a description including classification of animals and plants from a taxonomist perspective. So first we are going to see about Ernest Mayr. Ernest Mayr was born on 5 July 1904 in Kempten, Germany. He was born in Germany and he was an evolutionary biologist in Harvard University. He was called as the Darwin of the 20th century, and he was one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. He joined Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences in 1953 and he retired in 1975. And he got the title Alexander Agassiz Professor of Zoology Emeritus. His career was about 80 years. During this 8 years of his career, he researched in ornithology, taxonomy, zoo geography, evolution, systematics, and history and philosophy of biology. His research was around all of these topics. He almost single handedly made the origin of species diversity the central question of evolutionary biology that it is today. He also pioneered the currently accepted definition of biological species. He was awarded three prizes, so he is widely regarded as the triple crown of biology. What are those three prizes? Balzan Prize in 1983, International Prize for Biology in 1994, Crawford Prize in 1999. And he died at the age of 100 in the year 2004. This is about Ernest Mayr. Coming to diversity in the living world, if we look around, we see a large variety of living organisms, and if we increase the area that we observe, we will increase the range and diversity of the variety of the organisms that we see. So, if we were to visit a dense forest, we'll see much greater number and kinds of living species in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, or organism that we see, it represents a species. So the number of species that are known and described, they range in between 1.7 to 1.8 million. We don't know the exact number. This refers to biodiversity. What is biodiversity? The number and types of organisms present on earth. The number and types of organisms present on earth is called biodiversity. So how much is the biodiversity? 1.7 to 1.8 million. So we should remember here that as we explore new areas, even the old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified. So the number continuously increases. So there are millions of plants and animals in this world. We know that plants and animals in our area are, we know them by their local names. These local names will vary from place to place, even within a country. So probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find means to talk to each other or to refer to organisms we are talking about. So we need a common name. We need to standardize the naming of living organisms so that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. A particular organism should be known by the same name all over the world, and this process is called nomenclature. Nomenclature means standardizing the name for a particular species so that it can be called by the same name all over the world. So obviously nomenclature or naming is only possible when organism is described correctly and we know what organism the name we are giving is. This is called identification. So first we have to identify, that means we should describe the organism. After that we'll have to give the name for it. So in order to facilitate the study, number of scientists have established procedures to assign a scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to all biologists all over the world. For plants, the scientific names are agreed on principles and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. And for animal, it is International Code for Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific name ensures that each organism has only one name. So, description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other organism. So biologists follow universally acceptable principles to provide scientific names to organisms. Then each name that we give to each and every organism, it has two components. What are those two components? The generic name and the specific epithet. Generic name refers to the name of the genus and specific epithet name means the name of the species. This system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system was itself given by Carolus Linnaeus, and now it is practiced by biologists all over the world. So this naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. For example, let us take the example of mango. Mango's scientific name is Mangifera indica. So in this, Mangifera represents the genus and indica represents the species or specific epithet. So there are a few rules which is applicable to binomial nomenclature. Those rules are biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. The names are of Latin origin, and when we write it, it should be in italics. They're Latinized or they're derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. Wherever we find the organism, the name should be given only in Latin. The first word in the biological name represents a genus, while the second component denotes a specific epithet. Like we saw in Mangifera indica, Mangifera is the first word. It represents a genus. Indica is the second word. It represents a species. Both the words in the biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate the Latin origin. So all the names are derived from Latin to indicate that when we write the name of the species in hand, they should be separately underlined. When we print it, it should be printed in italics so that we can get to know that it is of Latin origin. The first word denoting the genus starts with capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. For example, in Mangifera indica, the first word is Mangifera. It starts with a capital M. And the second word, indica, it starts with a small letter I. So the first word of the genus will start with a capital letter and the species will start with a small letter. And then name of the author appears after the specific epithet at the end of the biological name, and it is written in an abbreviated form. That means short form. For example, Mangifera indica, it was first described by Linnaeus. Mango was first described by Linnaeus. So its name is Mangifera indica Linn. We are not writing Mangifera indica Linnaeus. We are writing it Linn because it is the abbreviated form of Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make it possible. This process is called classification. What is classification? Classification is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characteristics. Anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characteristics. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cats, or insects. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characteristics with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, we'll all see dogs and not cats. When we think of crustaceans, we know what we're talking about. That means we can easily identify what we're talking about. When we tell mammals, we'll think of animals with external ears and body hairs and all those things. Likewise, if we talk about plants, we'll think of, or if we talk about wheat, the picture that comes in our mind will be wheat plants, not of rice or any other plant. Hence, all these things which are dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice, plants, animals that are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. So, taxa can indicate categories from different levels as well. Plants also forms a taxa. Wheat is also a taxa. Animals, mammals, dogs are all taxa. But dog is a mammal and mammals are animals. So each are of different taxas. Based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is called taxonomy. What is taxonomy? Based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. The process of classification of all living organisms into different taxa based on their characteristics is called taxonomy. The process of classification of all living organisms based on their characteristics into different taxa is called taxonomy. External and internal structure, along with the structure of cell, developmental process, ecological information, they're all essential and they form the basis for modern taxonomic studies. So what are all the things which forms the basis of modern taxonomical studies? External and internal structure, structure of cell, development process, ecological information of organisms. So all of these are essential for modern taxonomic studies. So hence we can say that characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature, these four processes, characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature, these four processes are the processes which are basic to taxonomy. These four are the processes which are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification were based on the uses of various organisms. What were the earlier classifications based on? Earlier classifications were based on what? Uses of various organisms. Hey, human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms but also the relationships among them. So, this branch of study was referred to as systematics. Systematics means the study of not only about the organisms and their diversities but also the relationships between the different organisms. That is called systematics. The word systematics is derived from Latin word systema. Latin word systema means systematic arrangement of organisms. Okay, systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publications. The scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics also takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. So, systematics was later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. And then systematics also takes into account evolutionary relationship between organisms. These are important points. Next, taxonomic categories. Classification, we know it's not a single step process. It involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Each step represents a rank or category. Since category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category. And all the categories together, if we take it, we call it as taxonomic hierarchy. Each category is called as unit of classification. It represents a rank and it is commonly termed as taxon. So each category is called unit of classification. This each category, which is called as unit of classification, it represents a rank and it is commonly called as taxa. It represents a rank and it is commonly called as taxa. So taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by example. Insect represents a group of organisms sharing common features like 3 pairs of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. So insects, if you say, it is a rank or category, it is a unit of classification because we know it by certain characteristics such as 3 pairs of jointed legs and all those. Can you name such other groups of organisms? Remember, groups represents category. Groups represents category and category further denotes rank. Groups represents category and category further denotes rank. Each rank or taxon in fact represents a unit of classification. We saw this already. Each rank or taxon, it is a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups or categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. They are distinct biological entities. They are not only morphological aggregates. Taxonomic studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum or division, phylum in case of animals and division is used for plants, class, order, family, genus and species. So these are all the common categories for the taxonomical study of all the known organisms. All organisms, including those in plants and animal kingdoms, have species as the lowest category. So wherever, in whichever kingdom you see, species are the lowest category. Now the question that you may ask is how to place organisms in various categories. The basic requirement for placing different organisms in various categories is the knowledge of characters of the individual or group of organisms. So we should have the knowledge of characters. That means it is, in other words, it's called identification of the organism. This helps in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals of the same kind of organisms as well as of other organisms. And by knowing the similarities and dissimilarities among the different individuals and organisms, we can place it in different categories. The first category is species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. So those organisms which have fundamental similarity, they are called a species. One should be able to distinguish one species from another closely related species based on distinct morphological features. So by using the morphological features, by just looking at them itself, we must be able to differentiate the organisms. For example, Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum and Panthera leo. Mangifera indica is mango, Solanum tuberosum is potato, and Panthera leo is lion. Just by looking at mango, potato and lion, we can differentiate all of these. All the three names, indica, tuberosum and leo, they represent the specific epithet or the name of the species. The first words Mangifera, Solanum, and Panthera are genera, and they represent another higher level of taxa or category. Each genus may have one or more specific epithets representing different organisms, but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera, it's a genus name, has another specific epithet called tigris, which is nothing but tiger. So, Panthera, you can say for the genus Panthera, you can have Leo, which represents lion, or you can say Tigris, which represents tiger. So, Leo and Tigris, these two are the species name for the genus Panthera. So, one genus can have more than one species. And Solanum includes species like Nigrum and Melongena. Solanum is a genus name. It can have many species name like Nigrum, Melongena. Human beings belong to the species Sapiens, which is grouped among the genus Homo. So the scientific name for human beings is written as Homo sapiens, in which Homo is the genus name and Sapiens is the species name. Next category is genus. Genus comprises of a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. These are group of related species which have more characters in common when we compare it to the species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregates of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal, they are two different species, but both of them belong to the same genus, which is Solanum. Another example is lion, leopard, and tiger. Lion is Panthera leo, leopard is Panthera pallidus, and tiger is Panthera tigris. All of these three are of the same genus but different species. They all have common features, certain common features, and therefore they are all belonging to the same genus Panthera. So this genus differs from the other genus Felis, which includes cats. Felis is the genus which includes cats. Panthera is the genus which includes lion, leopard, and tiger. So these both are different genuses. Next is family. Next category, family, is group of related genera with still less number of similarities as compared to genus and species. So species has the highest level of similarities. Genus is next to species, and lesser than the similarities of genus we have family. So family is having still less number of similarities when we compare it to genus and species. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. This is important. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. When we talk about plants, we have both vegetative and reproductive features of the plants. Among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, they are all placed in the family Solanaceae. So the genus are different, genera are different, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, but all of these three genera are placed under the same family Solanaceae, and then it's all based on the vegetative and reproductive features of the plants. Among animals, for example, the genus Panthera, comprising lion, tiger, and leopard, it is put along with the genus Felis, which includes cats, in the family Felidae. So the genus Panthera and the genus Felis, they both are placed under the family Felidae. Similarly, if we observe the features of a cat and a dog, we'll find some similarities and we'll find some differences as well. They are separated in different families called Felidae and Canidae. In Felidae, we can see cats, and in Canidae, dogs are present. So dogs and cats are of different families, but Panthera and Felis, they belong to the same family, Felidae. Next is order. So you've seen earlier that categories like species, genus, and families, they are based on a number of characters. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories, they are identified based on aggregates of characters. So until before we saw they are identified based on characters. From order onwards, we'll see that they are identified based on aggregates of characters, means groups of characters. Order being a higher category is the assemblage of families which exhibit few similar characters. The similar characters are less in number when we compare it to different genera included in a family. So the similar characters will decrease when we uh, come higher in the taxonomy characters categories. The similarities will be highest in species, and then it will decrease when we come upwards towards the kingdom. The similar characters are less in number as compared to different genera included in a family. So plant families like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae, they are included in the order Polynomials. So these different families called Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae, they are included in the order Polynomials. Mainly based on what? Mainly based on floral characters. The animal order like Carnivora, it includes families like Felidae and Canidae. So cats and dogs family, they are coming in a common order called Carnivora. Next category is class. Class includes related orders. For example, order Primata, which comprises monkey, gorilla, gibbon, it is placed in class Mammalia along with the order Carnivora. That means order Primata and the order Carnivora, they are placed under the same class, which is Mammalia. So order Primata includes monkey, gorilla, gibbon, all those things. And order Carnivora includes cats, dogs, tiger, lion. These both orders are placed under the class Mammalia because all of these are mammals. So class Mammalia, it has other orders also. This is just an example that they've given. Phylum comprises classes comprising animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, along with mammals. They constitute the next higher category called as phylum. All these based on the common features like, what are the common features? Presence of notochord, dorsal hollow neural system. All of these common characters possessing organisms are included in the phylum Chordata. In case of plants, classes with few similar characters assigned to a higher category called division. In plants we call it division, in animals it is called phylum. Coming to kingdom, all animals belonging to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called kingdom Animalia in the classification of is in the classification system of animals. Kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is distinct and it comprises all the plants from various divisions. So we refer to these two groups as animal and plant kingdoms. The taxonomic characters from species to kingdom, in ascending order, we can see it in this figure. Kingdom, phylum or division, phylum in case of animals and division in case of plants, class, order, family, genus, and species. So species is having the highest number of similarities in characters, and kingdom will have the least number of similarities in characters. The similarities in characters will decrease as we go from species to kingdom. You can remember it as KPC of GS. KPC of GS. These are broad categories. Taxonomists have also developed subcategories in this hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. So as we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristics goes on decreasing. Species is having the highest number of similar characteristics, and kingdom will have the least number of similar characteristics. So this number of common or similar characteristics, it goes on decreasing when we go from species to kingdom. Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the members within the taxa share. That means lower the taxa, species is the lowest taxa. The organisms in this species will share the maximum number of similar characteristics. That is what is told here. Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the members within the taxa share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty in determining the relationship to other taxa at the same level. Because as we go higher, the similarities in characteristics are decreasing. So the problem of classification becomes more complex as we go from species to the kingdom. So this is a table where organisms, um, four examples are given along with the organisms: biological name, genus, family, order, class, and phylum. Man, that means human beings. The biological name for human beings is Homo sapiens. Its genus is Homo, and species is Sapiens. And they belong to family called Hominidae. And they belong to the order called Primata, class called Mammalia, phylum called Chordata. Phylum in case of animals, division in case of plants. Housefly, the scientific name is Mus Musca domestica. Housefly's biological name is Musca domestica. Musca is the genus name. Muscidae is the family name. Diptera is the order name. Insecta is the class name. And Arthropoda is the phylum or division name. Next is mango. Mango's scientific name is Mangifera indica. Mangifera is the genus name. Anacardiaceae is the family of mango. Sapindales is the order in which mango belongs. Dicotyledone is the class, and Angiospermae is the phylum. No, it's called the division because it's a plant. And then wheat, the scientific name is Triticum aestivum. Genus is Triticum. Aestivum is the species name. Poaceae is the family name. Or Poales is the order name. Class is Monocotyledone. And the division is Angiospermae. So if you see over here, the first name is genus name. The second word is the species name. In family, you can see that all of these are ending with AE, AE, AE. So this will be helpful in identifying the family name. And when you come to order, if you see in plants section, the orders are ending with ales, LES. It's ending with LES, so you can identify it as order. Now coming to the summary. Living world is rich in variety. Millions of plants and animals have been identified and described. How many have been identified and described? 1.7 to 1.8 million. And the number is still increasing. We don't know the correct number yet. So the living world is rich in variety. Millions of plants and animals have been identified and described, but a large number still remains unknown. The very range of organisms in terms of size, color, habitat, physiological and morphological features make us seek the defining characteristics of living organisms. In order to facilitate the study of kinds and diversity of organisms, biologists have evolved certain rules and principles for identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. So the branch of knowledge dealing with these aspects is called taxonomy. So taxonomy deals with identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. Taxonomic studies of various species of plants and animals are useful in agriculture, forestry, industry, and in general for knowing our bioresources and their diversity. So for all these things, taxonomic studies are used. The basics of taxonomy, like identification, naming, and classification of organisms, are universally evolved under international codes based on resemblances and distinct differences. Based on similarities, in other words, based on similarities and distinct differences, each organism is identified and assigned to a correct scientific or biological name comprising two words. It's called binomial nomenclature. It's called binomial system of nomenclature. An organism represents or occupies a place or position in the system of classification. There are many categories or ranks which are generally referred to as taxonomic characteristics, taxonomic categories or taxa. All the categories constitute a taxonomic hierarchy. So there are different taxonomic categories or taxa. All these things together comprises the taxonomic hierarchy.